Signs, signs everywhere, signs. Signs for your business and signs for your ride. Sign Pros is the place where we make your signs.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
We are the Sign BroCast. Welcome to our podcast. We have Miss Gabriella Gallegos from Race El Paso on our show, and she's a lawyer. So we want
And she's the Mighty Mujer.
yeah. We want to welcome her to the podcast.
Gabriela, good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning.
I've been after you for a while.
It's been a while, I know.
And you've been very patient with me. Thank you for that.
And you too.
Yeah. I found you through the website. I'm always looking for different businesses and stuff like that. I think I went to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And they were highlighting Mighty Mujer.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where I found you and tracked you down. So,
Okay.
And you were nice enough to say yes.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about Mighty Mujer, and congratulations, by the way, for that recognition.
Oh, thank you. So Mighty Mujer Triathlon, we're actually celebrating our 10th year this year and just announced that we're going to have a live and a virtual race. Last year we had to go all virtual just because of, pandemic times, right? So all of the events that we produced last year were virtual, although, they went really well. But Mighty Mujer is an all-female event, and it started 10 years ago, which is kind of hard to believe. And at this point, we've introduced thousands of women to the sport of triathlon. So triathlon is swim, bike, run, and we have two different distances at that event, although this year we're just doing one, and we've had to modify it a little bit. But it's April 24th, and so we are kind of in full swing trying to get people there. But honestly, it's been just trying to get women more active.
Sure.
I've got a bunch of other races that are co-ed, but that one in particular has kind of just created this identity, so people will ask each other, like, are you a Mighty Mujer? Like, I'm a Mighty Mujer. So it's kind of become a really great thing. And it's in 4 cities now. So El Paso is still the flagship, but we've got Tucson, Austin, Miami, and Miami, in addition to El Paso.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool.
Do you also compete in the marathons, or you kind of just put together the event?
So triathlon. So this one's swim, bike, run. So marathons are the long distance running. But yeah, so I've done all of those. I've done everything from short distance to very long distance. I've done a full Ironman, but I've only done one. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, so the concept of triathlon, is that, are you the first one to do something like that? Officially in El Paso?
So, there were kind of more bare bones ones. So the ones that I produced were the first USA triathlon sanctioned, following all the rules, making it a big production, that sort of thing. There have been small ones that take place at like White Sands, and we had kind of some more community-based races that were just a little bit smaller scale. And like I said, less of a like production with a party, kind of deal.
But how would you do a triathlon? You said it involves swimming as well, right?
It does.
How do you do that at White Sands?
So we do not have open water. So there's a couple of things in El Paso that we've had to modify. So they're all sprint distance. So to give you guys an idea, I don't know how much you know about triathlons, but it's swim, bike, run, right? All squashed together, one after the other.
Wow.
And you can start with a short distance, which is a sprint or a super sprint, and then it can go to Olympic distance, half Ironman. So a full Ironman ends with a full marathon as the run, right? So it's kind of, if you compare it to running, it's like the 5K is the sprint and the marathon is the Ironman. It's kind of how those work. So we do the shorter distances here in El Paso because we have to use pools. And so that's where we do the swimming. Yeah.
Wait, so if you did it in White Sands, they ran to...
They had a pool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they have a pool at White Sands Missile Range, right? So yeah.
Oh, okay. I was
So
thinking
it's
they ran
centered
like to Las Cruces or back to El Paso or something.
No. Well, they're short distances, right? If you're using the pool. So all of the distances kind of go along with each other. So if you're doing a longer distance, it's a longer distance swim, longer distance bike, longer distance run. So you can only do so much in a pool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And only so many people could be in the pool.
Right. That's the other downside. Yeah. Ordinarily, you would want to be in a lake or in the ocean, something like that.
Are there official distances for like when there's a short triathlon? That's an official distance?
So that's where there's the sprint. And the sprint is a little bit more like flexible with what the official distances are.
Okay.
But the Olympic distance is, the standard distance that take place in the Olympics, and that's a 1,500 meter swim, a 25K bike, and a 10K run. So that's kind of the intermediate distance. And then you have the longer distances that are half Ironman and Ironman.
Are there specific ones for women as far as the Ironman, or Ironman is open to both?
All races are generally open to both. We've had the women specific races. Those tend to be more sprint or Olympic distance, but you could really do whatever you wanted.
Okay. I had a friend that did the Ironman, Carolyn's son, and he described the training for it. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of.
You turn into a machine.
Yeah, that's a lot of discipline. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said family time was having dinner with the kids while he's riding his bike alongside.
Right. And then you're hungry all the time and sleepy all the time. Yeah.
It's supposed to be incredible, just discipline.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun though.
And the environment affects too, because he said he trained in Truckee, California, where it's like snowy and all the weather and stuff. So he was prepared for that. And the one he went to, I guess there was some weather problems. So they changed it to a whole different climate. And he said that really just affected everything. So all that whole climate can affect everything.
You'd be surprised. So climate change is actually affecting events too. So you would have things like, oh gosh, things are unseasonably hot, and that might be an issue if people are going to be out there for a long distance. Or water quality has become a really big issue because if you're in a lake that had, low water levels or, stuff that was happening. So it's actually become something more and more visible because races have been affected because you can't have people swimming in an unsafe water.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
What year did you establish the Race El Paso?
Race El Paso, I founded in 2009, and the first event was produced in 2010, and that was Eagle in the Sun Triathlon.
Any challenges trying to get it going?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So it was 2010. I had been away from El Paso for close to 15 years. And so when I moved back, I had personally gotten into triathlon. And so I was looking for that. And when I found that most of the people in town, there was a small tri club, there was a great group of people, but they were mostly traveling for races because there just wasn't much here.
Gotcha.
So kind of got it in my head that we should be able to do that, and El Paso should have all the nice things and all of that kind of thing.
Good.
So started it as a project, but it was really starting from scratch, right? Like starting from explaining what a triathlon is, right? When you go to the city to do the permits, they're like, well, but is it a run or a bike? And you're like, no, it's both. Right. Well, but why are you trying to rent the pool? Well, because I need that to be able, you know what I mean? Like you kind of had to put it all together in a way that they don't have the forms set up, just very basic stuff like that. Or sponsors, right? You're that's part of the event. Sure. And so you're looking for sponsors, you're trying to reach this audience, and they're trying to wrap their head around who's doing it, right? And what is that profile? And in El Paso, we sold out that first race. Right. So it was a big deal from the get-go. And you've got people who are super hungry for it and just haven't had the opportunity. And now they've got this goal that they can work toward. And so really a lot of other things have built up around it. So if you're new to to doing the events and new to being active, then you want all the stuff, right? You need to know more about shoes. You need a bike. You want to know physical therapy might come into play because maybe you have an injury. There's so many things that you start looking into to support that.
You probably never even consider some of
that you kind of just start learning about. Yeah.
Wow. So my question was going to be when it comes to actually preparing for it, do you guys do preparation stuff to help people, or is it just kind of you do your own thing and you show up and you do it?
We actually do. So it's funny you should bring that up because that was one of the things that I think was really important for Race El Paso and Mighty Mujer in particular. So started that first race in 2010, sold it out, learned very quickly that over 80% were first timers.
Oh, wow.
And we were getting questions that were like, well, where do we change? And who watches the bike? And how does this work? And, very basic stuff. So people were willing to take the leap of faith because they were excited about it and then realize oh snap, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is supposed to work. What do I wear, to swim, bike, and then run all at the same time? So all of those kinds of things started coming up. So from that first event, we did clinics and beginner briefings that were meant to get people prepared.
Oh, nice.
So the first one was huge. We ended up having over 100 people show up, for us to just walk them through an event.
Wow.
For Mighty Mujer, we do a series that is really cycling focused so that it helps women, what do you need to know every time you get on the bike, right? You need to check your brakes, you need to check your air pressure, you need to make sure you have a tire changing kit, those kinds of things. Yeah. Next, how do you safely climb and descend? Because it's all about knowing how to use your gears and being able to do it safely will mean that they can enjoy it rather than being afraid when they're coming down fast or wiped out when they're trying to go up, those kinds of things.
So a lot of stuff involved.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we do all of that. So, and it's a little bit unusual for race production companies to do kind of the educational piece. But the mission has really been to try to shift El Paso's culture to get it more active.
Well, it probably helps you. I would imagine people that are gung-ho about it, that kind of training or classes would either encourage them to do it more or scare them to not do it at all, because they'd be like, that's a lot of stuff. So so it probably in the end it's probably better for them too, health wise, because you don't want to overdo it.
Well, that's true. Well, and it can be technical, right? Like, and so if you haven't been on a bike since you were a kid, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't remember doing hills, and I don't remember having to use my gears. It kind of changes things.
Big adjustments.
Well, but we want them, everybody who's participating in the event to feel prepared by the time they get there.
That's good.
They'll have a better time. They'll be safer for everyone.
Exactly.
All of that stuff.
Exactly. Wow. And has El Paso has it gotten to the point where people are coming from other states to participate? I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So about 20% are visiting athletes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We put on one virtual event that was at the end of last year, and it was called Run the 915, and kind of set a really high goal to everything was 915. And so tried to get 915 participants. We ended up getting 984 in the end. So it went a little crazy. And everything was focused on local businesses, visiting local places. And somewhat shockingly, we ended up having people from over 25 states that participated in the one that we thought was super El Paso focused.
Wow.
So you'd be surprised.
So I would imagine that the running community is they're very in contact a lot, so word gets out and they spread it around. That's it.
I think it depends. It depends on the event. Mighty Mujer has had a really strong identity in other places, so that one's gotten very well known. Others are very, local focused, and people, will call their friends and family. They'll have their son run with them in a relay. It happens in different ways.
Mighty Mujer obviously is unique in what it is. We'll talk about that, but I wanted to ask you. What was the question I had on the tip of my head? Specifically about the virtual. Explain, how do you do virtual?
That's what I was going to ask, the virtual.
Please.
Yeah, so you can design them in any kind of way, right? And we had very different options. Okay. So we did 6 different virtual events last year.
Okay.
And each of them had a little bit of a different concept. But I'll give you the Run the 915 as an example. So that one was purely running, and that was meant to be team focused. So you could sign up to run either 9.15 miles, 91.5, or 915, and then you would be getting, your friends and family to join your team.
Okay.
Wow.
And so it accumulated over 15 days. So you had from December 1st to the 15th to add to the pot of miles, right? And your team would all go into it. So everybody registers. They got a hoodie and a medal, and it was kept very, very simple because we wanted to be able to, execute it well at a low cost for them.
Sure.
And then when you're submitting your miles, you kind of log into your registration system. We use a specific platform. So you would submit I walked 2.5 miles today. You could either use a device like your Garmin or your phone or that sort of thing to record it. And then you would just put in your miles, and they would kind of accumulate over time. So we had a partner who designed some badges, so you would also get a virtual badge. You would get one of the ballpark, and then one of UTEP, and then one of as you kind of went along your miles.
Oh, okay. So basically
everybody's doing their own.
Yeah, they run their own. Okay, so they didn't have to document it video wise or nothing like that.
So we had people doing selfies. So we had a challenge that was part of that was meant to get people shopping in local businesses before Christmas, right, and kind of supporting that.
Okay.
And so we had a list of businesses and landmarks that people could go to and take a selfie when they were there, and then they'd have to post that. So if they visited at least 9, they got a poster that we had done by a local artist that was, have you seen the I Heart EP mural?
Well, I've seen different ones.
Okay, so there was one in particular, and so that was the one that we commissioned and had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So
it's self-reported. It's on your own, alone but together. That kind of thing.
Honor system.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So there are no awards for those because you could be wherever, right? Yeah. And of course, you could lie, but we don't want people to lie.
So is that going to continue for a while as far as the virtual concept?
Yeah, so we just announced Mighty Mujer as a live event, and that's going to be at the end of April. And there's a limited number of spots available for the live event. There's no swimming this year because, the pool is enclosed. We do it at Memorial. And the pools have been closed for a year. So even if we could rent the pool, people haven't been training for that. And so we, had concerns over, safety and, people being ready for it.
Gotcha.
So we'll have a bike run and then we'll have a run. So those will be the 2 race options that women can participate in. And then we also have a virtual component. So if you are prepared to race live and ready, and going to follow all the protocol, all of that kind of stuff, we invite you to race live. When it fills up, it fills up. And that's all we can do. And then we also have this virtual component. So if for whatever reason you're not ready to race live, you're not ready to be in a group, or, you're somewhere else and can't travel, anything like that, you can do the virtual option.
Gotcha. Wow. Very interesting.
Were you involved in the marathon last week?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, wow, they were running in the
I know. So my race timer is the one that they use as well. And so he was, posting pictures of like, I'm in El Paso. He's from Houston.
That was awesome.
Oh, wow.
And oh my gosh, that was brutal. But I mean, those guys were hardcore. It was awesome.
Wow, discipline, I tell you, man.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a pool at our house. We're willing to donate the pool if it'll help.
All right.
It's not very big.
How big is it? Right.
Might take 30 seconds to probably cross
over and over and over.
So tell us specifically about Mighty Mujer.
Yeah. So Mighty Mujer has, like I said, we're hitting the 10th year anniversary. The race is going to be on April 28th. It is in central El Paso. So ordinarily it starts at Memorial Pool. We're still starting right there nearby. The race itself is a really challenging course. So it is a tough uphill up Alabama. You come like screaming down Alabama, then you go towards downtown and come back. Wow. So in the past, we've had 2 different distances. And this year we're actually simplifying a lot of things just because we need to make sure that we can control, all of the layout, all of the course. We need to be really careful about how it's executed. So we'll have the shorter distance. It'll just be the bike and the run. And then we'll have another option where you're just doing a run walk. And so those are kind of the 2 options. It's complete. The course is closed. So the police, completely close the streets for it. It's a lot of fun, and we've had some great community partners in the past and sponsors that are, excited to be back.
Sure.
There's a couple of, catches this year, right? Like we can't have spectators at the event. So people are going to be coming and they're going to be racing, and essentially like their fellow racers are their community, and that's really been a big part of it anyway. But this year more than ever, that's going to be, I think, an important component. Our volunteers, we'll have volunteers out there, of course, but other than volunteers and athletes, we can't have crowds, of course, and we need to make sure that part is kept under control.
And that's the one in April, end of April?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what inspired you to do the Mighty Mujer itself? Was it because of something personal, if you don't mind me asking, or was it?
Yeah. So when I started Eagle in the Sun, the gender breakdown was about 70% men and 30% women.
Okay.
And that was honestly pretty typical across the country. So that was just kind of how that was looking, 12 years ago. And so a couple of years later, Mighty Mujer, the concept, like the words Mighty Mujer, started out as this idea by a friend of mine to do a calendar that was women and their bikes and a fundraiser for the Center Against Sexual and Family Violence.
Okay, gotcha.
So it started out as that because she called me, she was on the board at the time, I believe, and she kind of called like, will you be in the calendar and will you help me find people who will do this? And so it was a lot of fun, and we did that and had a great fundraiser. And then kind of we're trying to figure out like this concept and like words of Mighty Mujer were so inspirational. We were like, what could be next? And so they kind of came to me and were like, we think you can do something with it, but we're not quite sure what or what it looks like. Is it a bike ride? Is it a this? Is it a that? And that was kind of where the idea to have an all-female triathlon was born.
Very cool. And have anybody from your Mighty Mujer gone on to do even bigger events?
Oh,
or
absolutely.
Yourself?
Absolutely.
Good.
Oh, so it's a gateway for a lot of women. So whether it's their first or their 20th, I think people are getting a really good experience because it's a challenging course, but it's beginner friendly. And then a lot of people are then hooked, and so we see people every year. We see them going on to longer distances, going from I just want to finish to I want to place, and kind of making that progression. But the whole point is to make that a gateway to your lifestyle, right? So it's not we don't promote it as just a bucket list, you have to have done this once. It's kind of once you do this, you're going to keep wanting to do this.
Gotcha.
Lifestyle.
Yeah.
Very good. I imagine you guys have a pretty good community. Do you guys do a lot of other stuff together besides the actual sports stuff?
So since it's a business, right? So we host some social events to kick off the event.
Oh, cool.
And then a lot of, I think, friendships and,
Sure.
circles have developed. So, I had someone tell me once when they went to a clinic, they're like, you might show up by yourself and then you leave with invitations to go for a run with someone, to like meet them up for, a bike ride,
Sure.
So it's really developed organically.
Wow, very cool. Well, congratulations on all that
Thanks.
stuff. Cool. I want to know, where are you from?
I'm from here.
Born and raised in El Paso?
I wasn't born here, and I was
Ah.
raised back and forth, but I am from here.
I mean, you were born in
Eugene, Oregon.
Eugene, Oregon. Okay, what brought your parents out this way, or your family?
So what took them there first? So they were there for graduate school. They're from
gotcha.
here.
Oh,
yeah, that's why I'm like, it's a complicated
wow.
question, but circumstantially, I was born somewhere else.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And speaking of the education stuff, you are also a lawyer.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
What practice, if you don't mind? What do you practice?
So I haven't practiced in about 10 years.
Okay.
But I started out at a large law firm doing appellate work, so complex commercial litigation.
Whoa,
I
wow.
represented big companies against other big companies, essentially.
Really?
Yeah, fighting over different things.
Mighty Mujer.
Right.
Even in the courtroom.
Right. Since I was back, I moved back and I telecommuted for a number of years, still for the same firm that was out of Dallas. And then when I left the firm job, it was really to do Race El Paso full time.
Wow.
And so that was kind of where that took.
That's what you do now, full time?
Well, so I just started a third career about a year ago. So I'm kind of now entering a whole different realm. So I'm an associate professor at UT Health School of Public Health.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so. That's very impressive.
Very
Where did you-
educated.
Where
I
did
was
you?
gonna say, third career.
Are you UTIP graduate?
No.
Okay, so you kind of, where'd you go for your master's?
I went to Cornell for undergrad,
Oh, wow.
so in upstate New York.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow, good. And are your parents still with us? Are they still?
One is
Okay.
not.
And are they here in El Paso? Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Are they involved too?
Yeah, my mom's the announcer. So she
really?
is the
There
race
you go.
announcer for all of the events. She is the
wow.
voice of Mighty Mujer.
The MC.
Yeah,
She's Mami Mighty Mujer.
she's awesome. Yeah.
Very cool. So, how can the people get a hold of you if they want to? Any sponsors that want to sponsor, possibly?
Absolutely,
Or
absolutely.
anything at all? Where is their website or anything?
Sure. So we've got two. RaceElPaso.com has kind of all of the events that we do. And we do 5 events every year in El Paso. So they range from, a half marathon to a kids event that's for swimming and running. So we've got a range. And then MightyMujerTriathlon.com is its own website because we've got the 4 locations. And so you can find information about any of them there.
Very good. And sponsors are always welcome, of course.
Of course.
And do you have merchandising there as well?
We do.
You do it
Yeah.
all. Very good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Good.
And do you have a hotline for the lawyer advice?
I do not. I'm sure somebody does. It is just not
You're
me.
a little rusty.
Right. No. That part I've never done.
So, how have you enjoyed El Paso? I mean, you grew up here and stuff too, but I mean, compared to you probably traveled around a lot, I imagine. You said
I have,
Houston.
so I lived in Dallas for a while. I've lived in California. I lived in upstate New York. El Paso has so much possibility, and there's so much that I think if you're willing to get in there and do something, people will support you. If you will do it well, if you have an idea, I think people are interested in wanting to support that. And so I've found that very, very exciting. And then it's also a place where you can make a lot of change, right? Like there's a lot of things that I think we might be a little bit far behind in, but it's an opportunity to jump in there and do something new, so I see a lot of that. I think it's also, pretty supportive of entrepreneurships in some ways, right?
Yeah.
In other ways, it's super challenging, so it kind of, you guys know that, it has both ends of it, where you would think well, I can start something, and then you're like, man, this is tough, and finding clients and finding, so it's got kind of both ends of that. I think a lot of people in El Paso might not realize how much comes out of here, with Mighty Mujer having grown, it has a pretty national reputation, people have heard of it all over the place. It started here. It is a very big deal that it's been televised twice on KTSM and live. And it's like the unicorn of triathlons. That doesn't happen anywhere in the country. So it is a huge investment that this community has made in these kinds of community events.
Very good.
Yeah.
Wow. Very good. Is there anything else you'd like to let us know about Mighty Mujer or what you're doing there? I mean, like I said, we want to put all your information on screen so people can contact you. And
so I would say to check out mightymujer.com. We've got a lot of different options. And because this year is going to be kind of a get back to racing, but making sure we're doing it safely.
Exactly.
We've got a lot of different ways that people can get active. So, during this time, I think people have gotten a little stir crazy, right? And hopefully you've seen probably more people out walking, more people buying bikes. You've seen that happen a lot. And so we want to make sure that that doesn't stop. You know, once people resume their lives, that's a part of, you know, kind of what we've learned in the past year, that we can kind of keep going. So we're here to help set goals and, you know, offer motivation. And so if, you know, any interest in that, we're here to do that.
Very good. Well, cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad I came.
It was painless, right?
It was great. It was great. You guys are awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Well, we are the Sign BroCast. We want to thank Gabriela for joining us. Make sure to check out her website, and we'll be signing off.
Have a good day. Time Rose is the place